In this video, I'm going to have another conversation with a friend on this channel, and we are going to talk about them, why they came here to the US, their experiences about with racism before they came, and what their understanding has been right now. Coming up right after this. What's happening, my beautiful people? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. Yes, a lot has been going on, but we are back. And as always, I have a guest on the channel. I know you guys like guests. And so today's conversation is going to be very interesting, mind-blowing, and hopefully it gets to change our perceptions or what we think we know about racism, and even listen to some shared experiences. If you're ready, grab your cup of tea or coffee or whatever it is that you like to drink, and let's get right into the video. Hi Vicky, how are you doing? And welcome to our channel.
Hi, I'm doing well, thanks Richard, and thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, it's been long overdue, right? I think you're one of the first people.
We've spoken about this for a while.
Yep. And I'm happy that, you know, our schedules have made it possible for us to at least meet and just chat for a couple of times. So yeah. I know you, most of my viewers don't know you. So tell us your name, your country of origin, and you know why you decided to come to the US.
Right. So my name is Victoria Maranova, and so I'm a little bit of a complicated case because I actually have two citizenships, and so I was born in Bulgaria, which is in Eastern Europe, hence my name Maranova. But my family immigrated to South Africa when I was a kid, when I was around 8 years old, and so I grew up in South Africa, hence the accent. Maybe a bit Americanized at this point, but yeah. And I came to the US because I wanted to pursue my graduate studies originally, and I am still pursuing my graduate studies, but I guess once I came here, I kind of wanted to stay a little bit longer than I'd initially anticipated.
Yeah, and I think that's the case for most of us, because again, when you are back home and you gain admission to come to school here, your mind is, okay, let me go get school done and leave. But then when you are done with school, you're like, wait, can I push myself a little bit further? Can I take my academic journey a little bit further? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And they think that, well, when you came to the US, you've decided to stay there. And it's not always the case. Sometimes it's just looking back at, it's going back home with a master's degree, you know, enough, or can I push myself extra hard to get a PhD or a doctorate or whatever? So I definitely can relate. So you mentioned that you are still pursuing graduate studies.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your program and even just getting into the mindset of furthering your graduate studies?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm doing a PhD in media arts and studies, but I came here originally to do a master's in communication and development. And kind of during that, yeah, just like you, as you know, and during that master's, I did a class with another department with the school, the Voinovich School, which focuses on public administration. And I really enjoyed that class and kind of what it was about. So I decided to do a second master's, and I ended up doing a dual master's degree where I got kind of both masters within 3 years. And like you said, it's some people don't get it. I mean, it's not that I don't like the US, but my intention isn't here to stay just because I want to, you know, be an American and live in the US forever. I think it's like when you are given this type of opportunity, and you can finish this journey to its fullest possible, you know, possibility, you be able to take that and to be confident in yourself that you can do it. And I think that was what it was for me. It's like I started off and I realized my interests along the way were expanding, and I kind of wanted to see that journey through, and I wanted to get to that maximum, you know, how far can I go with my education whilst I'm here? I mean, I uprooted my life from South Africa. You know, I had a good job and everything, lots of friends, a boyfriend and everything. Like when you become an international student, you start from scratch. You come to a new country and you start from a completely clean slate. And so for me, it was like, it needed to be worth it. And for it to be worth it, I felt like I needed to go as far as I could go, as far as OU would let me go, I guess.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I've been telling a lot of people, that, you know, when you're an international student, it's a whole different mindset. Like, there are a lot of things that you have to deny yourself in order to pursue other things. And I have a friend who also is in OU, come there, we went to the same school, and I reached out to her, and she's been struggling and she's been beating herself up, you know. And I kept telling her that, look, we've all been there. It's you have to unlearn what you know and what you brought from home to learn what you are here to learn. And that's something that I use to encourage myself. But I'm also taking a graduate level class, and it's been brutal, but there are a lot of things that's going to make you feel like you can't do this. And then you look at the fact that this is a rare opportunity that other people will give an arm and a leg for. So, you know, you just have to push yourself that extra mile. So you came to the US, PhD. What has been your US experience? Of course, there's been a lot of talk about recent events this past summer, Black Lives Matter, you know, racism, microaggression, all of that. What has been your experience since being here? You know, any good moments, any not so comfortable moments and stuff like that? Not necessarily with racism or microaggression, but your overall journey since you've been in the US.
Yeah. And so I think you mentioned something really important when you said, you know, as international students, we're really hard on ourselves. And so I think that a part of me always feels guilty that I'm able to have this opportunity. So when I don't like perform to my fullest, or when I feel tired, or I can't do something, or an assignment doesn't come out as good as it should, there's a lot of guilt with that. And so a part of me is like, I shouldn't complain about things that happen to me in the US because I'm so lucky to be here when others don't have that opportunity. But jumping off of that, there have been, you know, a lot of positive experiences. If I hadn't come to the US, I wouldn't have met my partner that I'm with right now. I wouldn't have had a lot of different opportunities, like being able to do 3 different degrees, you know. But on the offside, you know, the culture is different, and to inculcate yourself into that is very challenging. And as an international student, you come here as a minority group. Now, I know I'm white, and you can't tell that I'm a minority when you look at me, but the minute I open my mouth, people know I'm not from the US. And so with that, I wouldn't necessarily say that I've had extreme experiences with racism per se. I think for me, it's been more xenophobic experiences, where I've been told, you know, like, go back to your country, or like, why are you here? And there's been moments when I've been really scared, and like felt like I wasn't wanted. And I think to link that to racism, and there's no way that I could ever really speak about, you know, being racially profiled in a negative way, but I could all of a sudden, on a deeper level, understand what it was like to be discriminated against based on something that you cannot change about yourself, and based on who you are as a person. And that really made me understand, I think, a lot better what the experience of racism like is for African Americans or Black people from other countries within the
People
US.
of color in general.
Exactly. And that is like a minute, like a tiny minutia of an experience where I've felt uncomfortable, where I've felt unsafe, where I've had to, you know, change my behavior or kind of censor myself in order to protect myself. And that's kind of when you understand, okay, like this is what people are living in, this type of fear and censoring on a daily basis. This is their life. I experience this occasionally with people that are maybe frustrated that I'm from another country here, you know? And so it can be a really scary experience to come to a new country that you're excited to be here, and then to feel like you're not wanted, or like you're a burden to the country, or like there's a lot of hate towards you as a person. And to live with that, and I don't experience that often, but to live with that on a daily basis for some people, it's overwhelming to just think about, honestly. Like, I think we've got another guest that's joined us for your interview.
Yeah. No, and you mentioned something very important. I think that with all the conversation about microaggression, racism that has gone on, I don't think the word xenophobia has even been a part of the conversation. And so as soon as you said that, I was like, yes, another important part of the conversation, because most of the time, some people don't even know that what they are doing towards another person could either fall under racism, could fall under microaggression, or even xenophobia, as you said. And that is why, like, for me, with you being slave to your skin color and sharing this story, it's important for the conversation, because again, you still enjoy a little bit of that white privilege. Like you said, until you mention your name or someone hears your accent and they're like, wait, like, you can't be from here. But then there's also another side to the story where people back home will be like, well, if you're facing all these challenges, if you are scared of living in fear, if you are dealing with multiple levels of racism, microaggression, and xenophobic situations being thrown at you, why don't you come home? Like, why don't you leave and come home?
Honestly, because at the end of the day, you're going to have challenges and battles your whole life, everywhere you go. You just have to decide what battles and challenges you're willing to, deal with and fight against and stand for. And I mean, you as a person are always trying to grow and improve yourself and do better and be better. And if me coming to the US gives me a new education, that's one aspect of it. It's also teaching me another part. It humbles you to really uproot your life and go somewhere else. Yeah. And there's a beauty in being able to experience another country for an extended period of time, because you cannot really learn about a place and a culture and a country unless you spend some time living in that place. We like to travel and go to places for a week, 2 weeks, a month, but that's not an adequate amount of time to really understand, what goes on in the country. And once you get here, you keep your eye on the end prize. Like, what is that goal that I came here to achieve? And that's what drives you. And you're always gonna have negative experiences, even microaggressions. Like I've experienced those as well, and it's silly things. Sometimes it's not even people trying to be mean or rude or racist, but it's like questions like, oh, you're from South Africa, why are you white?
That.
And they don't realize that's why would you ask me that? It's the 21st century. Like, how is that a question that you can ask me? Or do you have lions walking around in your backyard? How do you leave your house? And so you sit there and you're like, you have to take it as an opportunity to like educate people, as an opportunity to grow others whilst you're growing yourself. Not everybody, when you come to a country like America, where there is a lot of political kind of, push and pull, not everybody here is like that. And you have to understand that you can't put all Americans in one box and say they're all hateful, they're all racist, they're all this. Majority of my experiences with people here have been really positive. And I'm in an international community, so a lot of the people that I interact with are international people. And so for me, my experience has been wonderful most of the time, because I've been able to experience other cultures, experience other people, and really get to know what this country is about, and the positives of it, not just the negatives. And really, it's like you can't run away every time things get hard. You have to stick it through. I mean, I left everything and everyone that I knew and loved to come here. So I'm not going to run away at the first sign of trouble. I have to find ways to deal with it that are not impacting me, emotionally and mentally in a bad way. But you just have to fight it through, you just have to do it. Like, what else can you do? You're here now. You have to just see it through.
Yes, exactly. Like you've hit on some important points, and that's what I've been telling people. I'm like, look, there's a reason I left all the comfort and family, food that I really enjoy on a daily basis to come here. You know, even being in the US, you still have to leave your comfort zone. You still have to give up, some sleep. You still have to deal with winter, all of that. And so that, I think, is very important for our listeners or anybody watching this video, because yes, you can't get up and run away. Plus, another interesting side to your story that I think a lot of people have to understand is that it is easy to go from a majority into a minority depending on which community you find yourself. I mean, so I feel like as international students, a lot of people may not understand what we bring to domestic students in a way that helps to shape the conversation and the learning experiences. Because a lot of people think that international students come here to learn. Sometimes we are the teachers, because people genuinely don't know. Some people genuinely don't even know where the countries we come from is located on the map. And at that moment, it's a teachable moment for you to be like, well, I speak very good English because we were colonized by the British. And no, we do not. Exactly. We do not live on trees because we have 5-star hotels. Your presidents have visited our countries and things like that. So you touched on leaving everything, coming here, having to start afresh. We all know that, or most people know that in African communities, it is more communal. How has adjusting to living in a very individual-like society been for you? And as a student, how has that affected your mental health as far as loneliness, homesickness, and all of that is concerned?
Okay, that's a great question. And so South Africa, the majority is Black, and that's what was so unique about South Africa and apartheid, is that the minority, being, the white, the British, and the Dutch, came to the country, colonized it, and then the Dutch started apartheid, which was actually modeled on the segregation system that was happening in the US. So they actually took what was happening in the US and mimicked that in South Africa. Really important note. And so obviously when I went to South Africa at that point, apartheid was over, and President Nelson Mandela had been released from prison, had just become president. And so I came at a time when the country was really starting to move forward from this idea of segregation and racism. Of course, it still exists. I'm not gonna lie and deny that. Like, it's only been 25, 26 years since apartheid officially ended and Nelson Mandela became president. But that's what made South Africa unique. It was the minority ruling the majority. And so I was a minority there as well. And I think what also made it easier for me to kind of deal with what's going on in the US is that I immigrated there. So I experienced xenophobia there growing up as well. As a new kid from a new country that didn't speak English or any of the other languages, I was always the outcast. And so for me, that experience, eventually I outgrew it, but I've had it before. And so it wasn't completely an isolated incident coming to the US. So maybe perhaps that's why, even though I've had those moments, that kind of makes me want to kind of stay here and go and push through it. But another thing is, like you said, the African cultures are very collectivist. Bulgarian cultures are very collectivist. We're all about family. Like, we live together. I used to live with my parents, and it was like, until you get married or have a serious boyfriend, you're not moving out of the house. Like, you have to stay with us. And so coming here and not being without my family after being so close to them, that was really challenging for me. And I think the way I dealt with it is finding a community that I'm comfortable in and kind of growing with that community and building bonds in that community. And I was, at the time when I came here, the only South African, the only Bulgarian. And so for me, the only other way that I could really connect is to be with international students as a collective, and to really just become friends with whomever, I got along with. And
like
so
me.
Like you. And so I was really fortunate, when I first came to the US, I actually started working at the food facilities of the university, scooping cookie dough, like the bakery. I was always eating cookies, and it did not do wonders for my weight, but and it was a really humbling job.
You take what you get, right?
Exactly. And it was like a really humbling job going from like a managerial position in a huge media company where I was earning a lot of money to now scooping cookie dough and wearing a hairnet. You realize, okay, wow, like it's humbling. It's a real life-changing experience where your life is basically turned completely upside down. And then along the way, I was like, I needed something different because I needed more to stimulate myself. And that's when I applied to work with international student and faculty services as the graduate assistant. And that's really when I started building bonds with more people and more international people and meeting people like myself. And so I think that is what's so important as international students. I think we come to the country and we're overwhelmed and we feel like we're alone and we've been taken away from the people we know and love, but you have to build your own communities, and you have to find, your comfort zone within a group of people. So ComDev is a very diverse program. You have people from all over the world. So my friends were from ComDev, and I had friends from everywhere and anywhere that you could think of. And so that is where I was comfortable, and that is where I kind of dealt with that individualistic society. But South Africa is a really interesting contrast. It's diverse in many ways. South Africa, because of its history, because of its westernization as well, there is a sense of individualism that goes there, and so I think what makes my experience unique is I'm Eastern European. So for me, that a sense of individualism was a lot less than maybe other white South Africans. But anyway, I'm digressing. The point is you just got to find communities and build on those communities. But that doesn't mean that now you exclude yourself from everyone who's American.
Yep.
Like you still have to be open to building relationships with American students and to engage with American students. And even though you might not always be comfortable, you still have to put in that effort, because I can tell you that they're probably in the same position. They probably want to know more about you. They probably want to speak to you, but they are afraid. They don't know how to approach you. They don't know what to say. And so really you have to be open to maybe experiencing some microaggressions sometimes because they don't know better, and not getting mad about it, but rather finding a way to educate that person on it and finding it as a way for them to grow. And so you have to be open-minded to experiences coming your way, and kind of taking those experiences and creating the type of community and family and friends that you want to keep you mentally and emotionally happy.
Yeah, and so for the purposes of context, if you watched my interview with Mary, my roommate, we made reference to a Vicky in that video, and this is that Vicky. And Vicky usually leads a team of amazing international students who put together international student orientation. And that's how come I actually started talking to Vicky way before I also got here, because Vicky happened to be a second year in the program I came here to read. And so she was giving us survival hacks, tips, tricks, information, and all of that. So even before I stepped foot on campus, my cohorts knew what to expect, what classes we were going to take and all of that. But Vicky and I got along so well that when she graduated, I took on that role of making sure that I was providing information for the incoming cohorts and things like that. But Vicky is everywhere.
I love my international student community.
I know.
So I really, honestly, once I started my PhD, I had to become a teaching assistant and then a teaching instructor. So I don't work with ISFS anymore, but I have to say that I do really miss that experience. That it's I don't know, just being able to be there. And I think as an international student, you understand the challenges international students have when they first come here, which sometimes is difficult for, Americans to understand. And so when you work in an international student office, having an international student who has gone through that experience is an asset, because they can tell you what they think will work, what won't work, what are things that they need to do. And I remember when I first came, I was lucky because I actually had a friend here. So she helped me kind of navigate the things that were going on. But I remember thinking, if I didn't have her, what would I do? And so I came up with like, there's this document that I think I used to share with you guys that had like all the details, like what are the banks that you can have, what information do they need to open an account, like what are, like all of those things that international students worry about before, like where am I gonna live, like how much does it cost, so all of those things. And I sat down and I spent like a day or two, like really putting down the things that I knew international students needed to know. And kind of from my engagements through emails and stuff like that, I kind of knew what were the questions that were always on people's minds. And that was really important for me, because you want to make people feel comfortable. Like you want to make people feel like, yes, I'm coming to a new country, but I'm not alone. There are people here that want to help me, that are going to guide me, and it's not going to be a complete disaster when I come here. That feeling of comfort in the beginning is really important and forms your experience, because if you get here and you start on a good footing, you're going to want to engage further and continue to have an experience and be open-minded and grow. But if you come here and you have a terrible experience, then you're not really gonna wanna do much. You're probably not gonna wanna engage with people that much. You're just gonna put your head down, get through your studies and leave. And so I really wanted to create an opportunity for people to come and be happy and feel welcome and feel like they have resources and feel like there's always somebody there that they can ask questions to if they're ever lost or confused. And, I think I'm really grateful for what you've said, because it warms my heart to know that I did make that impact on you, and that my end goal of welcoming you and making you feel welcome did happen, and you didn't feel lost and confused and overwhelmed too much, more than you needed to. And that for me is a win. So it really makes me happy. I really miss that. I honestly, that's probably one of the things I miss the most. And then of course, I was deeply involved with International Student Union. So I really miss that as well, because I haven't been to an international student event in over a year now because of COVID. So it's been very challenging.
Yeah, and even on the immigration side of things, you also want to make sure that an international student is not violating like 10 different rules even before their journey starts. So I think that's why, like I remember I still have my original immigration packet from ISFS. It's all faded now, but I still keep it just to see or just to look back and say, okay, when I came, this was really new, and now it is this. And that is also why I kind of started this channel, to help provide those resources, especially now that a lot of things are virtual, and even just experiences, and even having people like you come on the channel to come share your experiences, because I think that the more experiences we share, the more it helps to answer some questions. It helps to take away some of the anxieties. It helps to take away that, can I do it? I was telling my friend that, look, there are people who come here from non-English speaking countries and they go ahead to get doctorates and stuff like that. It's a matter of how badly you want it. So thank you. Like I said, thank you so much for, not just giving an experience to international students, but also putting yourself out there for the service of other people. And I do miss walking by your office just to come say hi. But
I know.
One of these days.
The office was fun.
Yeah, so final question before we round up. Somebody is watching you. They are thinking of applying to a school, not necessarily in the US, but a school outside of their home country. What are the 3 things you would tell them?
The first thing I would tell them is make sure that you understand fully what that means, studying abroad, because, it's very romanticized, right? So understand that it comes with a lot of challenges. And so make sure that you do that research and you are certain that that is where you want to go, first of all. Secondly, I would say definitely contact, you're a new student, you shouldn't be afraid to at least reach out to whatever that entity in the university that you're interested in going to, that deals with international students, is reach out to them and say, I've been doing some research and I know I need to get a place and blah, 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 but can you maybe guide me in the right direction? Because yes, you can search online, but sometimes it helps to have that person or that human experience tell you, this is a good place, this is not a good place, and so forth. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. the international student kind of departments are usually very excited to talk to international students and to guide students. And, you know, even if they don't necessarily reply to your email, they might say, here's a resource page that we have with all of these details that you're asking me about. So how about, you know, go have a look there and see what stands out to you. And if you have more questions, ask me. So ask questions, don't be afraid to ask questions. And I think my last thing would be, like you said, you touched on immigration. Know those immigration rules, research them, understand how they apply to you to the best of your abilities, because you, like you said, you don't want to get caught out. And so this is kind of before you come here, right? So to give yourself a to-do list, a checklist of things that you need to get done and get those things done. Once you come here, again, don't be afraid to ask questions. Be open to different experiences. Most international student departments usually have activities and things like that. Go to those, engage with other people, have those experiences so that you build a community, so that you aren't alone. And from there on, understand that even though you've built your own community, don't be afraid to exit that and meet other people outside of that are from that country. Really inculcate yourself in that culture. You're going to be spending there, you know, a couple of years there whilst you're studying. That's a beautiful opportunity to really learn about a culture and a country and everything that comes with it. So experience that. Don't close yourself off and just, you know, have this mindset of, I'm just here to get a degree and then I'm leaving. Like, experience that, because traveling is a gift and it's one of the best of forms of, it's the best education that you can have. It's experiencing other people's worlds. So experience it as much as you can, as much as you're able to, and don't close yourself off from that. We as people, we have a tendency to stick to what we know. It's called homophily, right? We stick to the people that we know. We stick to the people that are the same color, the same culture, same origin. That's called homophily. Escape that. Have your friends, but be open to other experiences. I came here as the only South African Bulgarian student. Usually my life has been like that. I've always been the only Bulgarian South African everywhere I go. And so that has taught me that I have to get out of that comfort zone. And like you said, some of the most beautiful experiences in my life have come out of me being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In the beginning. And getting over that discomfort to learn and open myself up to these beautiful new experiences. At the end of the day, if you decided to travel to study, there's a reason for that. It's because you have a curiosity about a place. So let that curiosity guide you into a fulfilling experience.
Yeah, and I always say that the learning experience as an international student, it's not going to come only from the classroom. It could be on the street. It could be from conversation, like how not to ask a girl, let's go have coffee. Exactly. So you have to be open, and that is why for me, Ohio University's International Education Week was so important, because that is where international students, like, it's a street fair, right? We have series of talks and everything, and then it's a street fair where Americans come and sample, or just, you know, the community come and they sample food from around the world. Like, it's always really a good way to expose our countries and things like that. But yes, that's what Vicky has said. Research. Even if someone tells you something, don't take it hook, line, and sinker, because what they are telling you could be information that they got, which has now been updated. So please take time to research. Even just finding schools, you have to research, you have to look, you have to research and make sure you're finding a school that's going to meet your needs. And on that note, thank you so much, Vicky, for taking time to come hang out with us. Much appreciated. I know I still owe you a visit to Athens, so hopefully there's a certain level of normalcy, or when the cherry blossoms come up,
I can't wait.
I'm
excited.
Visit you guys. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the program or on the channel. We wish you well everything that you do. And I'm grateful. And if you've watched this video, you know, share with us in your comment section your thoughts, your experiences. If you are an international student in any part of the world, if you are also still living back home, you know, share your thoughts on, you know, the conversation. I think Vicky shared some amazing experiences and some things carrying into our everyday conversations or even our thought processes. And if you are watching and you are not yet subscribed, it takes you 0.05 seconds to hit on the subscribe button. So click on the subscribe button, turn on notification bell so that anytime a new video drops, you will be notified. Also follow us on Twitter at globe_engaged to stay up to date with previews and sneak peeks of conversations like this. And until I see you on the next video, stay safe out there, be each other's keeper, and don't forget to mask up. Peace.